Thursday, January 28th, 2021. You're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Daniel, welcome to Local News Live.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for reading the news. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street.
Good morning, Acadiana. It is my pleasure to be here with you again today, bringing you the news. We have quite a few headlines to look at, as we typically do, so we're going to just jump right into our first. It is a local headline, and it reads, Acadiana slides into high plateau of cases. Hospitalizations in region continue to decline. And this is brought to us by Ben Myers. Coronavirus spread in Acadiana continued to slow at a modest pace last week, and a high plateau appeared likely through the end of the month. Declines in local COVID-19 hospitalizations continued to pick up steam, however. New cases in the 7-parish region declined 9% over the week ending on January 13th from the previous 7-day period, while test volumes declined by 2%. Test volumes vastly outpaced new cases in the previous 7-day period, pushing down positivity rates that were soaring at the start of the year. The positivity rate in the 7-parish region 4 dipped from 9.7% to 8.6% as of January 20th, according to the state's calculations. In Lafayette Parish, the region's largest, the rate dropped from 10.2% to 9.8%. The state reports positivity on a weekly basis and on a 7-day lag. Daily case and test counts over the last week show a slowing recovery from a prolonged winter holiday spike. Week-over-week case counts are still declining, although not as quickly, and test volumes are starting to wane as well. The number of new cases reported in Region 4 over the last 7 days was 7% of newly reported tests, and that percentage, which is not the same as the positivity rate, has remained essentially flat over the last week. 3 weeks ago, the case-to-test ratio was more than 12%. The state's positivity calculation is based on a number of positive test results, including from people who test multiple times, as opposed to new cases. The region's positivity rate and case-to-test ratios remain historically high, despite significant improvements. These measures were usually below 5% in the lulls of late spring and early fall. Weekly case counts are also stuck at high levels. The 7-day caseload seemed to stall out in the 1,400 to 1,500 range over the past week. That is about half the early January peak, but still more than triple what was seen in October. There has been 1,489 new cases reported over 7 days as of Wednesday. On October 27th, there had been 449. Hospitalizations continue to show encouraging declines, though it's not clear if such progress will continue if case counts bottom out at current levels. There were 161 COVID-19 inpatients in the region's hospitals on Wednesday, marking a 17% week-over-week decline. That was the sharpest drop in hospitalizations since the week ending December 24th. Acadiana's fall and winter spike showed up in mid-November, and the region has not recovered since then. Improving trends in the second half of December sharply reversed following the Christmas and New Year's holidays. And at the end of our story, we have listed for us the coronavirus cases in Louisiana, which currently list at 343,583 positive cases and 8,152 deaths. And now, onto our next local headline, which reads, Local mask mandate being drafted. And this is brought to us by Claire Taylor. The Lafayette City Council is drafting an ordinance that would require employees and customers of businesses to wear masks. It's the second time the council is attempting such a mandate, having backed off in an attempt in July at the request of Lafayette Parish Mayor-President Josh Guillory. At the time, Guillory said the governor's mandate was sufficient. Then, he ordered the city's fire and police department not to enforce the state mandate. Quote, "We are still under the governor's mandate," Councilmember Nanette Cook, a co-sponsor of the ordinance, said Wednesday. "We're just trying to get what's already in place enforced." Cook and Councilmember Glenn Lazard, who supported a mask mandate in July, are sponsoring the latest ordinance, which is still being drafted and will be introduced as an emergency ordinance, Lazard said Wednesday. Quote, "I'm confident we're going to have the votes to pass it," he added. Favorable votes from 3 out of the 5 council members are needed to approve the ordinance. 4 of the 5 would be needed to override a veto by Guillory. His communications director, Jamie Angel, asked Wednesday afternoon whether Guillory plans to veto such an ordinance, said he would have to speak with the mayor-president. Guillory, in July, said he would not infringe on the public's liberties by requiring them to wear a mask or other face covering to slow the spread of COVID-19. As of Wednesday, the Louisiana Department of Health reported 216 deaths in Lafayette Parish caused by COVID-19 and 20,287 cases, up 193 since Tuesday. The first case in the parish was reported in March of 2020. Lazard said that if the council approves the ordinance, he expects Guillory to instruct the Lafayette Fire and Police Departments to enforce the mask mandate because it will be of local law. Guillory has said enforcement of the state mandate is the job of the state fire marshal's office. Quote, "Obviously, we have no control over what the mayor chooses to do or not to do," Lazard said. "But I fully expect that he will follow the law. I expect he will not do anything as far as ordering agencies to not enforce it as he has done with the governor's mandate." Lazard, who was under treatment for cancer for several months last year, said he was frustrated to learn Guillory instructed local officials not to enforce the governor's mask mandate. Then, seeing the high numbers of death from COVID-19 and reading about a Lafayette funeral home not enforcing the mask mandate after being asked to do so by a family that lost a loved one to the virus prompted him to act. Cook said she and Lazard received complaints from constituents about the city not enforcing the governor's mask order. Studies show that communities that enforce mask mandates have fewer coronavirus cases. Quote, "I believe as a council, we have a duty to protect our people," Cook added. And now we'll move on to our next headline. And it reads, Kaplan City Court judge suspended after 2017 arrest at bachelor party. Hardy pleaded no contest to groping waitress in Utah. And this is brought to us by Andrea Gallo. The Louisiana Supreme Court issued a suspension Wednesday for a Kaplan City Court judge who was arrested at his own bachelor party in 2017 after he drunkenly grabbed the buttocks of a waitress without her consent, court documents say. The judicial misconduct case against Judge F. Stanton Hardy III reached the rare threshold in Louisiana of going before the Supreme Court for a disciplinary hearing. Most cases of alleged judicial misconduct are resolved before they reach that stage, often with private dispositions. Hardy's case, however, has led to public disciplinary proceedings, both from the Louisiana Attorney Disciplinary Board and now from the state Supreme Court. The Kaplan City Court judge is a part-time role, and Hardy has practiced law on the side since first being elected to the bench in 2015. Kaplan voters recently re-elected him without opposition to another 6-year term on the bench in Vermilion Parish. Hardy was arrested in 2017 at his bachelor party in Park City, Utah. Quote, "It is undisputed that he grabbed the buttocks of a waitress without her consent. Park City police were called. He did not immediately produce identification, and he failed to cooperate with police at the scene," the Supreme Court's disciplinary order says. Police charged him with 4 misdemeanors, including sexual battery. Hardy pleaded no contest and has satisfied all conditions of his plea, the court record states. Hardy did not return messages Wednesday at his law office or Kaplan City Court. He issued an apology in 2018. Quote, "I am sorry and remorseful for the embarrassment that my actions have brought upon my family, my constituents, my employees, and the legal profession," Hardy said at the time. "It is a very hard lesson to learn. I humbly ask for your forgiveness." The Office of Disciplinary Counsel, which investigates attorney misconduct, entered a consent agreement with Hardy in 2018 to suspend him from practicing law for 1 year with 6 months deferred. The agreement also required Hardy to enter the state's Judges and Lawyers Assistance Program, which helps judges and lawyers with alcohol and drug addictions, along with other problems. The program is supposed to monitor Hardy until December 5th, 2022, through his attorney disciplinary agreement. At issue in Hardy's Judiciary Commission case was whether to extend his monitoring period. The Judiciary Commission recommended that Hardy be monitored through the end of 2026. One medical expert suggested that Hardy be monitored throughout his career, while another recommended the existing 5-year period. The majority of the Louisiana Supreme Court agreed Wednesday to keep his initial 5-year monitoring period in place. It will expire in 2022. In a partial dissent, Chief Justice John Weimer said that he agreed with the Judiciary Commission's position that Hardy's monitoring should continue until 2026. Justice J. McCallum agreed with the partial dissent. The Supreme Court noted in its ruling Wednesday that, quote, "It is perplexing why the Judiciary Committee did not act initially against Judge Hardy, allowing the attorney discipline to occur first." The court's ruling, written by Justice Will Crane, said Hardy had no previous judicial misconduct record and that he did not exploit his position to satisfy personal desires. The court noted that Hardy had 2 previous alcohol-related arrests from 1999 and 2001, but both occurred before Hardy became a lawyer, and he reported them to the Committee of Bar Admissions to become licensed as an attorney. Quote, "Judge Hardy's criminal acts in this case are more serious because he is a judge," Crane wrote. "The fact that he broke the law erodes the integrity of the judiciary and the public's confidence in it." The Supreme Court also issued a 2-year unpaid suspension for Hardy from his judicial office with all but 6 months deferred. However, the suspension is retroactive from the 2018 date of Hardy's suspension as an attorney. Hardy is required to finish the monitoring agreement and to pay $2,025 to the Judiciary Committee for the cost of his proceedings. We will now take a moment to step away from the headlines for a PSA break. Keeping calm through COVID hotline. Recognizing the strong emotions and associated stress many people are feeling with the COVID-19 outbreak, the Louisiana Department of Health's Office of Behavioral Health has established a hotline to help Louisianians cope. The Keep Calm Through COVID crisis phone line provides trained, compassionate counselors to support Louisianians through this difficult time. Counselors are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with information and service coordination, linking callers to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. This service is available to the public at no charge. Call the Keep Calm Through COVID hotline at 1-866-310-7977. One more time, that's 1-866-310-7977 at any time of day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. All calls are confidential. This line is for counseling only, and people calling for general information should dial 211. And with that, we will continue back to our local headlines. Our next reads, complaint filed over monkey deaths. Animal rights group, UL Research Center negligent in August heat stroke incident. And this is written by Ken Stickney. An Ohio-based animal rights organization has accused a University of Louisiana at Lafayette research facility of breaking federal law and committing negligent acts that led to the death of 3 monkeys in August. A university spokesperson at the New Iberia Research Center confirmed that 3 rhesus macaws died there, apparently of heat stroke, on August 5th, but said no laws were broken. Quote, "The University of Louisiana at Lafayette and its staff is diligent in the care it provides non-human primates at the New Iberia Research Center. The center follows rules and guidelines established by the United States Department of Health and Human Services and other agencies," the university said in a statement. The research center reported the deaths to federal authorities that month and proposed changes in how monkeys would be handled going forward, suggestions the federal government apparently accepted. Stop Animal Exploitation Now filed an official complaint last week with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The complaint says UL violated the Animal Welfare Act on August 5th when it put the monkeys in an area where temperatures were about 80 to 83 degrees at 8:30 a.m. and had risen to 93 degrees when the animals were found dead at 12:30 p.m. Quote, "I am appalled that UL's negligence allowed 3 monkeys to die unnecessarily," the group's co-founder and director, Michael Budke, said in a statement. "It is absurd that staff failed to take precautions when acclimating new animals on a day where the temperature reached 93 degrees Fahrenheit." Budke said the deaths were, quote, "were the result of sheer negligence, violating federal regulations for proper animal handling." The group has called for a USDA investigation and a maximum fine of $10,000 per infraction and per animal. In his August 26 report to the U.S. Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare, Francois Villinger, director of the New Iberia Research Center, said that the rhesus macaws were previously housed in Alice, Texas, which has weather similar to New Iberia. The average high temperature in August in Alice is 97.4 degrees. Villinger said Wednesday that the monkeys, which were to be used for breeding, had been at the facility in quarantine for about a month. He said they were being acclimated into appropriate colonies and may have suffered some stress because of socialization with the new monkeys. His report said the monkeys had been observed that morning and appeared to be doing well in the outdoor cage. The animals were not wounded, although he said the hierarchy among monkeys in the colony might have involved intimidation. Villinger said after the deaths, UL presented plans to federal officials that included using wading pools, sprinklers, and indoor-outdoor housing that would permit animals to seek respite from the heat. In its statement, the university said, quote, "These preventative measures met the requirements established in the Extreme Environmental Temperature Assessment and Action Plan." Although Budke suggested UL be fined, Villinger said the government had moved away from punitive measures and works with research facilities to develop and approve plans to improve animals' environments. Budke, reached at his office, said Wednesday that this is no longer the case. He said UL was guilty of violating federal law that says handling of live animals, quote, "shall be done as expeditiously and carefully as possible in a manner that does not cause trauma, overheating, excessive cooling, behavioral stress, physical harm, or unnecessary discomfort." The group said UL has a history of breaking federal law and has paid fines of up to $100,000 in 2017. The university has paid 3 other federal fines since 2007, the group said in its statement. Stop Animal Exploitation Now was founded in 1996 to, quote, "force an end to the abuse of animals in laboratories," its website states. Its investigations have been launched and actions have been taken against research universities across America. And now, to our next headline, which reads, quote, "We're going to adapt. Prejeans debuts drive-through window, updated menu ahead of grand reopening." And this is brought to us by Megan Wyatt. Prejeans will begin offering a limited menu through a new drive-through window on Thursday, ahead of the restaurant's grand reopening next month. Offerings will include boiled crawfish and shrimp, fried shrimp and catfish platters, fried alligator legs, shrimp pasta, crawfish enchiladas, seafood po' boys, smoked chicken and andouille gumbo, a fried chicken sandwich, hamburgers, and a house salad. Quote, "We're going to cater a little more to locals," said Tim Metcalf, who recently purchased Prejeans. "But in true Cajun fashion, our doors are open for visitors and outsiders." The iconic Cajun restaurant has been closed since November, when Metcalf finalized a deal with Bob Gilbo to purchase the business and property at 3480 Northeast Evangeline Thruway. Metcalf paid $2.4 million for the building and land along Interstate 49 between Karen Crow and Lafayette, according to court records. He declined to disclose how much he paid for the business itself and the recipes, though he mentioned that he's spending about $500,000 on renovations at the restaurant. Metcalf expects to reopen the dining room on February 8th. Renovations continue inside of Prejeans, which Metcalf purchased with his son Greg and friend Ken Boudreau. The team is also planning to open an elaborate outdoor dining space with a stage and restroom facilities under a large oak tree on Prejeans property in the spring. Metcalf is hoping that the addition of a drive-through window and outdoor dining space will keep people coming to the restaurant during the coronavirus pandemic. Quote, "We're learning how to pivot with what's going on in the world right now, and what's going on across the street right there," Metcalf said, pointing to the former Evangeline Downs property where Amazon is building a fulfillment center. Quote, "We're going to figure out how they eat, and we're going to adapt. If the restaurant needs to be open for breakfast or needs to be open late for the window, or the window needs to stay open, we're going to make it happen. One thing I'm good at is pivoting." Metcalf says he will employ about 100 people at the restaurant. All management positions have been filled, but he's still hiring a sous chef, line cooks, dishwashers, bussers, and bartenders. The restaurant employed about 140 people prior to the pandemic, but that number had dwindled to just 50 people at the time of the sale. Prejeans will continue to offer live music as coronavirus restrictions ease, although Metcalf said the restaurant will have performances less frequently and will host a wider variety of bands than before. The restaurant will also begin offering Sunday brunch service next month. The restaurant's full menu includes a mix of the old and the new, the upscale and the affordable. You'll find everything from oysters Rockefeller and steaks to pork skin fried pickles and a blackened shrimp flatbread, a nod to Dino's Pizza, all found on the new menu. Seth Ratcliffe, the restaurant's new executive chef, said he's more excited about the gator wings, which are alligator front legs soaked in buttermilk, fried, and tossed in a hot sauce or a house barbecue sauce. Quote, "The new Prejeans is just going to be better than ever," Ratcliffe said. "We're going to have fresh ingredients. No shortcuts are going to be made. It's going to be all local seafood, and I'm going to do my best to get as much local produce as I can." Metcalf's favorite item on the new menu is the smoked chicken and andouille gumbo. It's a Prejeans recipe that has been tweaked to include in-house smoked chicken. Quote, "We didn't change a lot," Metcalf said, "but it's the best gumbo without a doubt I have ever had." The drive-through window at Prejeans will be open from 4:30 to 9:30 p.m. daily starting on Thursday. The restaurant will be open from 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and from 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, beginning on February 8th. And now, we will take a short break from our local and state headlines to look at our Today in History, as well as our daily horoscope. Our Today in History is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Thursday, January 28th, the 28th day of 2021. There are 337 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded 73 seconds after liftoff from Cape Canaveral, killing all 7 crew members, including schoolteacher Krista McCarthy. On this date, in AD 814, Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne died in what is now present-day Germany. In 1547, England's King Henry VIII died. He was succeeded by his 9-year-old son, Edward VI. In 1911, the notorious Hope Diamond was sold by jeweler Pierre Cartier to socialites Edward and Evelyn McLean of Washington, D.C. for $180,000. In 1915, the American merchant vessel SS William P. Fire, en route to England with cargo of wheat, became the first U.S. ship to be sunk during World War I by a German cruiser, the SS Prince Eitel Frederick, even though the United States was not at war. In 1916, Louis D. Brandeis was nominated by President Woodrow Wilson to the Supreme Court. Brandeis became the court's first Jewish member. In 1939, Irish poet-dramatist William Butler Yeats died in Menton, France. In 1956, Elvis Presley made his first national TV appearance on Stage Show, a CBS program hosted by Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey. In 1973, a ceasefire officially went into effect in the Vietnam War, a day after the signing of the Paris Peace Accords by the United States, North Vietnam, and South Vietnam. In 1977, actor-comedian Freddie Prinze, of 22 years old, co-star of the NBC television show Chico and the Man, was shot and mortally wounded himself at the Beverly Comstock Hotel. He died the following day. In 1982, Italian anti-terrorism forces rescued U.S. Brigadier General James L. Dozier 42 days after he had been kidnapped by the Red Brigades. In 1985, the charity supergroup USA for Africa recorded the Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie song We Are the World at A&M Studios in Los Angeles. 10 years ago today, chaos engulfed Egypt as protesters seized the streets of Cairo, battling police, burning down the ruling party's headquarters, and defying a military curfew. The nation's largest cable TV company, Comcast Corporation, took control of NBC Universal, capping off a 13-month bid. 5 years ago today, dozens of educators who competed alongside Christy McAuliffe to become the first teacher in space gathered to remember the 7 astronauts who perished aboard Challenger 30 years earlier. 1 year ago today, the United States and several other nations prepared to airlift citizens out of the Chinese city at the center of the virus outbreak that had killed more than 100 people. And now, we'll move on to today's famous birthdays. Actor Nicholas Pryor has turned 86 today. Actor Alan Alda is 85. Actor Martha Keller has turned 76. Senator Jeanine Sheehan, a Democrat of New Hampshire, is 74 today. Actor-singer Barbie Benton has turned 71. Evangelical pastor Rick Warren is 67 today. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is 66. Movie director Frank Darabont has turned 62. Rock singer Sam Phillips is 59. Rock musician Dan Spitz has turned 58. Rapper Rakim is 53 today. DJ Muggs of the rap group Cypress Hill has turned 53 as well. Humorist Mo Rocca has turned 52. R&B singer Anthony Hamilton is 50. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett is 49 today. Actor Gillian Vigman is also 49 today. Singer Joey Fatone Jr. of the boy group NSYNC is 44. Rapper Rick Ross is also 44 today. And finally, actor Rosamund Pike is 42 today. And now we'll shift in to our daily horoscope. We'll begin with Aquarius, which is birthdays of January 20th to February 19th. Take your time. Don't feel pressured to act if you aren't ready or comfortable with others' requests. Be open about what you want and what you're willing to do. For Pisces, which is February 20th to March 20th birthdays. Keep an open mind, but don't share your thoughts. Time is on your side, and good decisions will lead to a better future. Don't act in haste. Gather information and solicit advice. For Aries, which is March 21st to April 19th birthdays, the tide is turning and things are falling into place. Before you become complacent, take a closer look at the small but essential details. Play to win, not just to get by. For Taurus, which is April 20th to May 20th birthdays, take a chill pill before you engage with someone who is pushing your emotional buttons. If you back yourself into a corner, it'll be challenging to find your way out. Keep the peace. For Gemini, which is birthdates of May 21st to June 20th, gather information, learn all you can, and refuse to let anyone interfere with what you're trying to accomplish. If you lay down ground rules and express your plans intelligently, you'll excel. For Cancers, which is birthdates of January 21st to July 22nd, tend to partnerships and money matters and assign responsibilities. As long as you control spending and are receptive to expert advice, you'll get to where you want to be. For Leos, which is July 23rd to August 22nd birthdays, you'll face problems with someone bullheaded. Before you take action, consider taking a peaceful approach. How you handle others will make the difference between failure and success. To our Virgos, which is August 23rd to September 22nd birthdays, if you want to change, be the one to make it happen. Uncertainty and confusion should be avoided. Be responsible, do a bang-up job, and reap the reward. For Libra, which is September 23rd to October 23rd birthdays, ideas you planted are starting to grow. Initiate a conversation with someone you'd like to work alongside. A change can be useful as long as you are practical about it. Accept the inevitable. For our Scorpios, which is October 24th to November 22nd birthdays, keep an open mind and your emotions under control. Tread carefully to avoid a no-win situation. Offer peace and love, not discourse and chaos. A learning experience will include a friend. For Sagittarius, which is November 23rd to December 21st birthdates, make last-minute changes to documents, contracts, or financial details. Refuse to let anyone pressure you into something uncertain. Make decisions based on facts, figures, and what's best for you. And finally, for our Capricorns, which is December 22nd to January 29th birthdates, problems will mount if you can't get along with a partner, friend, or relative. Take a step back, assess the situation, and look for a way to ensure that no one is taken advantage of. And with that, we're going to hop back into our local headlines. Our next one reads, Ochsner Lafayette General names new leader. Former CEO moving into advisory role. This is written by Adam Daigle. The Ochsner Lafayette General Hospital Network has a new president and chief executive officer following David Calicott's transition into an executive advisor role. The system announced that Chief Operating Officer Patrick Gandy will move into Calicott's position following a Tuesday vote from its board of directors. It also announced other leadership changes as the Lafayette Hospital Network transitions more fully into Ochsner Health System. The move is effective March 1st. Gandy, who has been with the Lafayette Health System since 1993, has held numerous roles, including several senior management positions at Lafayette General Medical Center, Lafayette General Surgical Hospital, and Lafayette General Imaging. Quote, Patrick Gandy is a purpose-driven servant leader who has made significant contributions to Ochsner Lafayette General during his 27-year tenure, said Warren Thomas, President and CEO of Ochsner Health. We are excited for Patrick to take on this new leadership role as President and CEO as we continue to grow and expand services for the communities across Acadiana. We also want to thank and congratulate David Calicott for his lasting impact on transforming healthcare delivery in the region. We look forward to having David share his expertise with leaders across Ochsner Health as executive advisor. Calicod joined Lafayette General in June 2008. Quote, "I am extremely proud of the health system we've built over the last decade," Calicod said. "Our commitment to always delivering excellence has significantly impacted our patients and communities across Acadiana and made us a healthcare leader in the region. It has been an honor and privilege to work alongside the most dedicated leaders, employees, and medical staff, and I know that the brightest days for Ochsner Lafayette General are ahead of us. I'm excited to take on this new role and enter a new chapter in my professional career within Ochsner Health." In September, Lafayette General merged with Ochsner Health, creating what both parties said is the largest and most comprehensive healthcare provider in the Gulf South. The deal included $465 million in investment over 10 years in Acadiana, to include $94 million in Lafayette. At the time, Calicod called the merger a, quote, "monumentous historic event." And now on to our next headline, which reads, "Stephen Oates, Lafayette Assistant City Parish Attorney, dies." And this is brought to us by Claire Taylor. Stephen Oates, who served as an Assistant Lafayette City Parish Attorney, died Tuesday at his home. He was 63. Oates was a founding partner in the law firm Oates and Marino, and a past president of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette Alumni Association. He earned his law degree in 1983 from Tulane University School of Law and earned his undergraduate degree from UL. Quote, "His devotion to the University of Louisiana athletics, especially baseball, was impossible to miss," his obituary states. At home games, Steve could be spotted in the seating area nearest first base, with a coterie of friends and fellow fans cheering on his Ragin' Cajuns. City Parish Attorney Greg Logan said Wednesday, quote, "He was a dedicated husband to his wife Sylvia and a dedicated member of both the Lafayette and ULL community. His presence and contributions will be missed." Pat McGee of Lafayette, director of the Criminal Division of the State Attorney General's Office, described Oates as a friend and mentor to him and his wife Robin, who worked for Oates at one time. Quote, "He took me under his wing, probably due to politics more than the law," McGee said. Oates had a broad knowledge of the law because his practice wasn't focused on one type of litigation. Quote, "His knowledge of law was extremely expansive," McGee said. The two attorneys defended the university in a lawsuit in which former UL football coach Jerry Baldwin alleged he was fired in 2001 because he was black. The university argued it was because of his 6-27 record. Quote, "It was truly a treat to watch him work during the final trial," McGee said. "He deferred to me a lot because the issue of race was so steeped in that trial. I found him just eager to have the hard discussions about race and perceptions, especially dealing with that particular trial." As appeals court ruled in the favor of the university and the state Supreme Court in October denied Baldwin's appeal. Funeral services will be held at 1:30 p.m. Saturday during a Mass of Christian burial in the Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Lafayette. Interment will be in St. John's Cemetery. Martin and Castile Funeral Home downtown is in charge of the arrangements. We'll now move away from local to some state headlines for the morning. Our first state headline reads, Louisiana oil and gas industry poised to lose subsidies. Biden committing to clean energy, water, infrastructure support. Federal subsidies for fossil fuels are expected to be pulled back while more investment goes towards clean energy and water, with a hefty portion targeted to areas like Louisiana, under an executive order signed Wednesday by President Joe Biden. The pullback on subsidies is another setback for the oil and gas industry in Louisiana, which is already reeling from low oil prices and the economic recession, and was hit earlier this week by Biden's moratorium on new federal leases offshore in the Gulf of Mexico that was highly criticized by the industry. The moratorium also affected federal lands, which aren't being drilled as much in Louisiana as in other areas of the country. During his speech Wednesday on climate change initiatives aimed at transitioning from fossil fuels to cleaner energy, President Biden projected that the federal government has allocated $40 billion for federal subsidies to oil and gas businesses nationally, which appears to include tax breaks. He later commented, quote, 40% of the benefits of key federal investments in clean energy, clean water, and wastewater infrastructure to help support communities across the country that are near industrial sites, singling out two areas, including the industrial corridor from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, in the comment. Quote, with this executive order, environmental justice will be at the center of all we do, addressing the disproportionate health and environmental and economic impacts on communities of color, so-called fence line communities, he said, especially those communities, brown, black, and Native American, poor whites, those hard and haunting areas like Cancer Alley in Louisiana, or the Route 9 corridor in the state of Delaware, Biden said. Lifting up these communities makes us all stronger as a nation and increases the health of everybody. If popular tax breaks are removed, that would be, quote, a really big deal, said David Dismukes, Executive Director and Director of Policy Analysis at the LSU Center for Energy Studies. Some oil and gas industry incentives have price triggers, so the value of the incentive drops the higher the price of the commodity. To take away incentives during an economic recession when prices are low might plunge the industry further down, he said. Quote, oil and gas is an important sector. Drilling activity is down already, so if you make it less profitable, the money is going to go somewhere else, he said. That doesn't help with economic recovery. Meanwhile, the Biden administration plans to invest in renewable energy technology, which could mean offshore wind along the Gulf Coast or solar power on land. So far, there's been little appetite for wind power development off Louisiana's coast, due to the lower wind speeds than nearby Texas or Maine. It hasn't been seen as economically feasible. Even if incentives were included, offshore wind projects might not make it along the Louisiana coastline, Dismukes said. Solar has a more promising future in Louisiana. There are already plans for utility-scale solar plants spearheaded by Entergy Louisiana. Southeast Louisiana is emerging as the hub for 6 of 7 solar farms that would produce nearly 600 megawatts of electricity combined in the next few years. Lafayette Utility Systems looks to purchase an additional 300 megawatts of solar power. Dismukes also said economic incentives encourage companies to use technologies, which he fears may be at risk if they get caught in the crosshairs of the pullback in subsidies to fossil fuel companies. Quote, I'm worried what might happen with that after all these machinations, Dismukes said, citing in particular carbon capture technology investment by industrial sites that help reduce greenhouse emissions. That's because carbon capture involves injecting carbon extracted from emissions into the ground, which may require federal leases for wells. Quote, if the methanol plant goes online and they don't have the incentive to capture the CO2, they won't, Dismukes said. Of major concerns is the new oil and gas lease ban of federal land and water that affects the Gulf Coast of Mexico and has financial repercussions for Louisiana. The state benefits from a revenue sharing model for the Gulf of Mexico wells. Quote, every lease sale in the Gulf of Mexico that doesn't happen prevents tens of millions of dollars from going to Louisiana's coastal work, said Mark Earnhardt, executive director of the Grow Louisiana Coalition. During fiscal 2020, Louisiana and 19 parishes were collectively allocated $155 million by a revenue-sharing agreement through the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act, which splits oil and gas production revenue with states along the Gulf Coast. A joint analysis by industry organizations, such as the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association and the American Petroleum Institute, projected that Louisiana would lose 48,000 jobs if the leases for federal lands and waters were banned. The Biden administration suggests that some displaced oil and gas workers could be put back to work to cap abandoned wells. It would take about 1,000 workers to cap all the orphan wells for 1 year across Louisiana. It's an effort that already has industry support, but the movement to cap abandoned wells was already in the works and doesn't have to be in coordination with banning new leases, said Tyler Gray, president of the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association. Quote, the leasing and development ban on federal law and land and waters has a tremendous impact going forward, Gray said, noting that he's hoping that the president will reevaluate the decision. The move could be chilling to new investment and could lead to more economic uncertainty. Quote, whenever you make decisions to freeze permits or rate reductions, you're going to affect all the decisions made previously, and it can be a challenge to the business environment, Gray said. As for the loss of subsidies, it hasn't really been a big topic for members as the industry doesn't consider tax deductions subsidies, he said. Critics argue the breaks are a fossil fuel specific subsidy, while others characterize them as tax deductions applicable in other industries. The Joint Committee on Taxation estimates that the federal government lost $1.2 billion in potential revenue in fiscal 2019 due to several major fossil fuel industry tax breaks. The largest tax breaks often used by oil and gas companies is the intangible drilling cost deduction, which accounted for $500 million in lost revenue nationwide. This tax break allows companies to take a tax deduction for the majority of costs to drill new domestic wells. If repealed, it could generate billions for the federal government over the next decade. Another popular tax break is known as percentage depletion, which allows oil and gas companies to deduct taxes based on how much oil is recovered, and sometimes that can exceed capital cost. It's similar to a depreciation allowance used by other industries. Likewise, it would generate tens of billions for the federal government if eliminated. A reduction of royalty payments for oil and gas exploration in the Gulf of Mexico is a subsidy that could be reversed. Federal leases sold until 2010 had automatic relief to spur deepwater exploration, which can be expensive and high risk. During the coronavirus pandemic, companies requested federal royalty rate deductions, of which more than 100 applications for land-based wells were approved and a dozen applications for wells in the Gulf of Mexico. Typically, companies pay 12.5% royalty payments on revenue from oil and gas on public land or water, which was cut for some below 1% last year. And now, we will move into our sports headline. We only have one today, and it'll also be the final headline of the day. So with that, our sports headline reads, Gordon could be the secret to UL's offense. And this is written by Kevin Foote. Last Saturday's 77-74 home win over Arkansas State was a breakthrough game for the UL Ragin' Cajuns, completing the first Sun Belt Series sweep of the conference season. The Cajuns are also hoping it was a turnaround performance for 6'7" California transferred forward Jacoby Gordon. The Houston native had his first double-digit effort the week before with 10 points in the first game at UTA. But on Saturday, Gordon contributed heavily to the Cajuns' 2-0 weekend with his sharpshooting performance. After winning the first game 81-68, UL was hoping to find a solution to securing a series sweep for the first time this season. Gordon proved to be the answer, hitting all 5 of his field goal attempts, including 4 for 4 from the three-point line, for a season-high 14 points in a season-high 20 minutes. Quote, a game like this will keep my confidence rolling, Gordon said after his first big night at UL. I'm just going to keep the ball rolling and just keep hooping and just keep carrying it on from here. Gordon said he was extra motivated for that game after not scoring any points in Friday's win. Quote, I told my teammates before the game Saturday, I'm just going to go hoop and let the game come to me, Gordon said. Yesterday's game, I could have played a little better to help the team even though we won. Today I told them I'm going to come with it, and everyone was with that. We're just playing as a team, and we got the W. Overall, it's been a tough first season of transition on the court for Gordon. Quote, "He was out of shape when he first got here," UL coach Bob Marlin said. "He hadn't played in a while. He had the opportunity to get some minutes and to get into somewhat of physical shape, and then he just got off to a poor start shooting the ball." So actually, fast-paced, guard-oriented Arkansas State isn't the opponent you might figure Gordon would have had his breakout effort against. Quote, "He's had leg issues in the past too, and he's not the best runner on our team," Marlin explained. "This group's pretty fast Saturday, so it was a challenge for him to get back and get ahead of the pack on defense. I'm really proud of his efforts today. He was huge for us." As Gordon explained it, the secret to his success that night was teamwork. Quote, "I had some teammates to encourage me the entire time I was warming up," said Gordon, who was averaging 4.7 points and 1.8 rebounds on the season. Quote, "Those are my brothers, and I love them to death." Getting off to a slow shooting start in his first season with a new team could have buried Gordon. Consequently, he cherished the support he's gotten from both teammates and coaches. Quote, "Early in the season, I was in a little bit of a slump, and my teammates and coaches knew that," Gordon said. "My brothers stayed positive throughout my slump and encouraged me. Just having my teammates and my coaches continue to encourage me and continue to tell me to shoot the ball was a big help. And also, just me staying focused and not harping on all the misses." The family-type atmosphere is something Gordon sensed when UL recruited him out of the Pac-12. Quote, "Louisiana just seemed like the best fit," Gordon said. "Me and assistant coach Justin Crow had a good relationship, him being from Texas. We talked it up and chopped it up every day. He was real consistent, and they just made me feel at home, making a decision. Especially when I came down the first time, they just made me feel very comfortable." Marlin said it's a two-way street with Gordon in terms of team chemistry. Quote, "They've all been supportive of him," Marlin said. "He's a great teammate. He does a great job encouraging others." Marlin also credited Gordon with having realistic expectations during the transition. "He knows that he can't play for big minutes right now at times," Marlin said. "He's still trying to get back in shape, physically get his wind up. 4 or 5 minutes is about what he can handle right now, but he was open today and shot it in. I think a lot of that was because his teammates' encouragement and his coaches as well. I have as well. Jacoby and I have a good relationship, and I think he's a guy who is going to step up and do this for us hopefully more in the future." Still, Marlin wasn't surprised by Gordon's big night. He had seen signs recently. Quote, "We knew he was going to have a breakthrough game like Malik Wilson did at Arlington last Saturday at any time," Marlin said. "It came at a great time. Now comes the chore of making sure that that's not the only UL win he contributes to this season, beginning with Friday's 4 p.m. road game at Texas State. Quote, "We have way better basketball to play," Gordon said. "Saturday was just us continuing to have confidence in each other and trust each other. This sweep will really give us a confidence boost going into the next few series." Before we conclude our morning, we will take a quick look at the funerals today in the Acadiana area. And those funerals include Charles Cowan III, with service at Asbury United Methodist Church in Lafayette at 12:30 p.m. And Gay Gorzowski, with service at La Chapelle de Martin and Castile at 2 p.m. This has been Local News Live for January 28th, 2021. I've been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Please join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope that you'll join us again tomorrow. And have a great day, Acadiana.